Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Kiddishin daf Tes, we're going to begin on Chesam and Beis at the very bottom. Hu Gavra, there was a story of a person, Dahavikom Zabed, as we continue to Tes Amud Aleph, Chumrei Pasach Yasa. So he was involved in a business transaction with Chumrei Pasach Yasa. So Rashi says, what exactly is this? Sha'osin shel bedil v'chortzin harbe mehen b'chut echad v'yosin oisa kimen anak, some type of necklace. The noisin b'tzavarehen limchar, it was put on the neck to be sold. V'hen shel zechuches, it was made out of glass. Okay, so he was selling this type of jewelry, if you will. Hasoya hi isasa. So a woman came. Amrulay said, Havli chad socha. Give me like one pearl, if you will, like one piece of this necklace. Amrullah, so he said, Iya vinalich. If I give you this piece, mikadeshusli, will you marry me? So Amrulay, she said, Hava mehava. Give it. So she didn't say yes. She didn't say, I'll marry you. She says, give it to me. Samrav chama kol hava mehava lav klomhu. Just repeating give is not a consent. And since it's not consent, it's not a Kiddushin. Now the question is, the fact that she said it twice, she said it once, will it make a difference? We'll see. Hahu gavra, another story. Dahavika shasi chamra b'chanusa. So you have this guy, he was drinking wine in the store. Asoya, he saw him and came. Armalei havli chad kasa, give me a cup of wine. Armalei, so he said to her, okay, if I give it to you, mikadeshusli, will you marry me? So Armalei ashkui ashkin, give me to drink. So again, Amar Chama kol ashkui ashkoyin, anyone who says it in this way will have klomhu. That's not consent, and it's not a kedushin. And then a third story. Hahu gavra dehavi kashadi tamre mediklo. So there was this guy who was throwing dates from his date palm tree. So yeah, he is woman came. Amalei shadali tarti. Maybe she said two because one is less than a pruta. Amalei isha dinalech mikadeshusli. If I give you two, or it's just my son shahaya kachoya. So if I give you two, will you marry me? So Amalei shadi mishta. Throw it down. So Amarav zvid kol shadi mishta lav komhu. So the fact that you used again this repetition may be the issue, and that's why the Gemara asks now. Iboilhu for the Gemara have ashki shti. If she would have instead just said, "Give it to me, let me drink," or throw it down once, mahu. Does that change things? Does that make it any different? Says Rashi, "Dulu kafalte ledibura." The fact she did not repeat her words, does that make any difference? So Omer Avina Mikadeshas, yeah, it does make a big difference. In those cases, it shows that she does consent, and it's a good kedushin. Rav Samabar Rakta Omer Taga the Malka, the crown of the king, Becheser Hamelech, which is Nishma, like you swear by the crown of the king, and Mikadeshas. That's not good. The Hilchasa, and what is the halacha? And Mikadeshas. That doesn't work. Doesn't make any difference. And since we're bring down halacha here, the hilchasa shiroi lutzri chishuma. The din is actually that the silks that we mentioned, even when there's two opinions what the machlokas was over there, does not need to be assessed before it's given to her. The hilchasa Rabbi Elazar, and the halacha like Rabbi Elazar. Who's Rabbi Elazar? Says Rashi. The Yomi, as we saw in the previous daf, his skachli b'mana, that if he says marry me with 100, manasal dinner leave her $1, hariz mukadeshus v'yashlim. So and we said because in that case maybe because he's not being moed b'hoylech or it's manastam. The hilchasa karava Rav Nachman. Who's that? It says Rashi Demel El mana ein kan mashkan ein kan. As we said that if let's say there was I'm going to give you a mana, I'm going to marry you a mana, and he gives her a mashkon, that's nothing. Okay. Weiter, Tanaban. Now, Bishtar Ketza. Now, we did learn already about a star, Daf Hey, I believe it was, but now we continue to analyze more about the dinim of star. Kasav lal nair, you write on paper, al cheres, on earthenware. The afabishin bo sheva pruta doesn't even have to be a sheva pruta, because it would be a sheva pruta, then it would be sheva kesef. It's not under the din of shtar. And you write bidcha mekudeshesli, your daughter is married to me, bidcha meresesli, bidcha li into harz mekudeshes. So in all these situations, it's good. So how is that possible? Says Rashi, going shul bagra. It has to be. She's not a bogeres. So she's, let's say, a katana. So in that situation, you're writing this to the father. Mask Rav Zera bar Mamel. So he asks the following question: Halo dami haishtaro l'shtar zvini. How do we understand this? This star is not comparable to the star of a sale, says Rashi. How do we know that this is considered like a star? Hasam over there. The way that it comes, a business transaction, the seller writes that my field I am selling to you, right? And that's what happens. The seller is writing a document, I am giving up my field. But over here, over here it's the husband that's writing bidcha mukudeshesli. So, and the man is like a loikeach, if you will, just like we said, like Stei Ephron, that Avraham is buying the field. He's taking the field, just like a man is taking the woman. So the woman is like the field, and the man is like the one is the loikeach, the buyer. So it doesn't really seem to be the same thing. Samarava hasim inyan dekra, v'hacha me'inyan dekra. The truth is that each of these are based on inyan dekra. Okay, this is going to be question 1 in a second. Let me just read the question first. Mahu hasim inyan dekra, v'hacha me'inyan dekra. Okay, so let's each one you have to analyze. Shtar for a mechira and shtar for Kiddishin are two separate things. Hasam ksiv, over there it says umachar miachuzasai. It mentions about the one who's selling the product or selling the field. So b'moicher tolo rachmana. So therefore the moicher is the one who writes the shtar. Hacha ksiv ki yikach, that the man takes her. So b'bal tolo rachmana. It's the husband that has to do it. So hasam nami ksiv sados b'kesav yiknu, but it also says with fields, with money you acquire. So the lokeach is the one who pays for the field. So karibe yaknu. So my time with karibe yaknu mishum diksiv umachar. Hachinami karibe kiyikach. It says kiyikach diksiv as bitin asat lishazeh. So you could say it on either one. Elwa amarava hilchasan ninhu vasmechinhu rabanakroi. The truth is, these psukim are just in the smachtas. However, the whole notion of who writes each star is told in halacha Moshe Sinai. So look at Rashi. Hasam nami gabi shtar zvini ksiv ve'ekach hasefer hamikna alma hamoicher nasno lekeach. The seller gives to the buyer. Dechsiv ve'ekach v'loksiv ve'etain. V'Yirmiyahu hayakayna es asada miyad Chanamael, that Yirmiyahu was purchasing a field from the hands of Chanmael. Alma Meicher Kaisev, the seller writes, Sad Mechor Lecha, V'Noisin Biyad Lekech, and gives it to the buyer. Abulhacha Kiyikach Siv. Okay, let's look at question 1 now. So he says, V'Hacha Ksiv Kiyikach Mahu Chiluk Hadin Shebein Mechel Kedushin Hanilman Me'inyada Dekroi. So B'Moicher Tola Kasev B'Moicher Lafikach Kaisev B'Shtar Sed Mechorlach B'Kedushin B'Bal Tola HaKasev Lafikach Kaisev B'Shtar Bircha Mekudeshesli. Okay, so it's just like basically explaining the basics. Diboy Seimo. If you want to give another answer, Hasam Namik Sev Ve'ekach Es Sefer HaMikneh. So the pasuk says Ve'ekach, and I will take this field. Okay. If you write a star on a paper or on earthenware, if you write bidcha mukadeshesli, bidcha meresesli, bidcha into, so in all these lashonos, bein alidei avia, whether it's given to the father, bein alidei atzma, says Rashi, Shikibaltehi medaita shel av. She accepts it on behalf of her father. Mukadeshes, then it works. Medaito, with his consent, v'hu shel bagra. But of course, we're talking about a situation where she was not a bogeris. Therefore, it really goes to the father, or you need the father's consent. However, if let's say kasav al nayir al acheres al b'yishem bo sheva pruta hari mukadeshesli hari li intei hari at moresesli mukadeshes, you can write that to a woman who is older. Bein alidi avia, you could even give it to her father. Bein alidi atzma, you could certainly give it to herself. Midaita v'hu shabagra. When you give it to the father, it has to be with her consent because she's a bogeris. Boy Rav Shimon ben Lakish. Shtar erison shekasa sholosh shema mahu. What's the din? If you write a shtar, kesa shtar bia, so you can be kaddish woman with shtar. Does that shtar have the same din as a get? When it comes to a divorce, we're going to see, as we learn, kasav l'shma. It has to be written l'shma, or it has to be signed l'shma, depending on who you hold like. Whether it's the Mesir Karti, Chasima Karti, but regardless, there's a din l'shma by a get. Is that also applied by Kiddushin, a shtar Kiddushin? So, Frat Gemara, shtar ersin shekasu sholoshma mahu. Havoyas litzias makshinon. Do we make a hekesh between, as we saw before? That's how we know the whole din of shtar. It's because Ramakesh Havoyatsia. So, ma, as we continue to Testament Bays, just like Yitzia, when you get divorced with a get be'inan l'shma, it has to be written l'shma, because it says v'kasav l'shma. Afavoya be'inan l'shma. So too, the shtar kedushin has to be the same. O dilma havayas lahadadik makshin. We compare kesef shtar and bia to another. Ma havaya de kesef l'binan l'shma. Just like when it comes to money, it didn't have to be printed l'shma for marriage. Af havaya de shtar will be inan l'shma. So that's the Gemara's question. Is it necessary for the shtar kedushin to be written l'shma, which is going to be question TA6. Ha'im shtar kedushin sarach lichtel v'shma u'medaita. And question TB7, identical question. Ha'im shtar kedushin boy ksiv l'shma u'menolan. Okay, so we'll get to the answers. So that is the question. So Basar, so that is the question. Let's at least underline that. Shtar erison shekasar sholoshma mahu. This was TA6 and TB7, I believe. Okay. So where it says like this. Basa the boy had a pashta. We answer it. Havayitzia makshinan diyomer krav yatzav haisa, which means clearly the halacha is that it must be written l'shma. Okay. Let's see what he writes. TA6, pretty straightforward. L'shma be'inan. Okay, TA6, TB7. Okay, certainly that must be written l'shma for her. Itmar. So we learned this follows. Kasvoi l'shma. Let's say he wrote it l'shma. However, shelo medaita, without her consent. Says Rashi, kaidem haksiva lo nimlach ba. So we're talking about, you wrote it, well, Shema, I want to marry this girl, but she didn't know when you wrote the shtar erison that you were planning on marrying her with it. So did she need to know, which kind of seems to me less romantic and less of a surprise, that you have to tell her, I want to marry you, and I'm going to want to marry you with a shtar, and I want to make sure you understand that. Oh, no problem. Okay, now I can start writing it. So the question is, do you need her consent? So why yes, why not? So this is the second question that was posed. Shalom Adaita. So Rabbi Ravina Armim Kadeshas, Rab Papa Rab Shravi Armanim Kadeshas, Machlokas. Some Rab Papa Ema Time Didu Ema Time Didi. I'll explain to you both of our reasonings. Ema Time Didu, your reason, Nechsiv Yatzav Haisamachash Havalitzia. You compare marriage to divorce and vice versa. My yitzia was shma. When it comes to a get, it must be a shma. Shalom adaita. But since you can give it to her even against her will, so she doesn't need she doesn't need consent when you wrote it. So afavoyanami was shma shalom adaita. It doesn't have to be with her knowledge. When it comes to the divorce, you need das makna. Knows the man who is the one who is relinquishing this woman, so he's the das makna. So havoya be in das makna. So to over here, you need das makna, which is the woman in this situation. So meisvei, so frek the Gemara. Ein kaisen shtar erison menesuin el medashneim. It says beferish that when it comes to writing a shtar erison, it needs to be with both of their consent. It says beferish, my love shtari erison menesuin mamish. Lo shtari psikata. What is that? Or psikta. Says Rashi, hatanoim shemeneim. There are different conditions that the man and woman make among each other. Umaman shepaiskin zelos, that the monies that they basically promise that they're going to be bringing into the marriage. Uked Gidol Amarav, Rav Gidol Amarav, Kama to Naisin Levidcha, how much you're giving to your daughter, such Levidcha kach v'kach, Levidcha kach v'kach to your son, such and such, Levidcha kach v'kach to your daughters such and such. Amad v'kichu, they get stood up and get married. Kanu hein advarim haniknim ba'amira. These are things that you don't need a kinyan, but there needs to be das. So according to this, it is not clear whether or not what the din is. So medaita. So it is a machlokas. Okay, so one says mukadeshes and one says ein mukadeshes. So medaita or shalom medaita, that actually is a machlokas. And let's see if I wrote that. Hashtar kedushin sarach ksiva l'shma magash avol yitzia maget sarach lichtel l'shma gam shtar erison sarach lichtel l'shma. Oh, that's it. But it didn't. So that question didn't ask for medaita. Okay. All right. Weiter. Ubabia. So we already established the pasuk says in Kikach Ishishu Vola that you can be Mekadesh a woman with Bia. So Minolan, so I'm Rabbi Vo, Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Kra, Bulas Baal. So we're bringing a different pasuk over here. So it says that the Bia of the husband. So Malamid Shanasa Labal Alide Bila. It shows that when a woman is a basula, she can become a ba'ula, and that's how you can be Makadisher. Amr Rav Zeo Rav Avov Yermel Reish Lakish Rav Yochanan K'ura Zu Shoshana Rebbe. Is it so appalling? Is it so repulsive? That which he said, Uba'ala Malamid Sheniknas Babia. The pasuk says it so clearly. You marry a woman with bia. So why are you coming up with this? So imahasam habamina adam mekadesh mahadaboil kamashmon. The pasuk says kikach isha ubola. It almost sounds like first you have to do the kikach isha. You have to do the kedushin kesef, and then after you do the kedushin kesef, then you do the bia. So the pasuk itself is not so clear that you can be mekadesh with a bia. Therefore, he uses bulas bal. Okay, so that's how he explains that. Let's look at question 2. What is question 2? Kikach ishishu bala elu tlos hilchais kedushin yol for Rabbi mahaikra. Okay, so one again is pashit that a woman is mekadeshes babia. Okay, there's going to be 3 answers though. So that was 1. Maskav Rabamul in Cain nar hamarasa. You have a woman who's a naira, girl. She's between 12 and 12 and a half, and someone did kedushin with her. So it turns out that she was unfaithful, and Lenaro Sasa Dover, but in this case she did something willingly, baratzain, so she gets the punishment of skil, this harsh punishment for this Nara Marasa. What is the case? Idi Akdish Vahadir Boyal Buulahi. I don't understand. If he was Makadish her and then he was Boyal, so then she's a Bu'ula, right? It has to, says Rashi, uskila bibasula ksiva. The only way that you can possibly get skila is dafka in a situation where she's a basula. So look at the Rashi before. Hilkach al korcha kikach havi kedushin la'atzman ubal havi kedushin la'atzman below kesef. It has to be that Bia alone is the kedushin and kesef alone is kedushin. Because if you want to tell me that it's necessary that you have to do kesef and bia, so then you're never going to find a case of a Nar Harasa because she's already a Ba'ula. So that's the question. Edi Akdish V'Hadar Boil Ba'ulahi. If you're Makdish her and then you had Bia, then she's a Ba'ula. Edi Akdish V'Lo Boil Av Klumhu. According to you in the Havamina, you're saying that if all you did was Kesef without Bia, maybe that's not enough. So Amru Rabban K'mei Abai Mishkach S'Khan Shabal Ora Shalokadarka. Maybe he had Bia with her, a Bia Shalokadarka, says Rashi. The Iskash Mishkavos Ahadadach Se Mishkavi Isha Shte Mishkavos Karinan Beki Kachubola Vikati Basulahi. Maybe in the Havamina, Ki Kachi Isha gave her Kesef. In Ubola, you had Bia Shalokadarka, which means that she still had her Basulim intact. And therefore, that's how she could still be a Naira Hamarasa if you had Bia Shalokadarka and Havamina. Normally, by Adkan Lo Plagi, Rev Rabbanan Ella Ba'acher. The only time these two people argue, we'll see in a second, is if someone else had Bia in that way. Even though she has her Basulim intact, we still say halachically she has the status of a Ba'ula, and she's not going to get Skila. So even if, let's say, you say she had Kesef and then Bia Shul Kedarka, and the Bia Shul Kedarka halachically is a Bia to now consider her as a Bu'ula, and therefore she's not going to be Chayiv as a Nara Marasa. So why would you even have the Havamina think Hikachi Shishu Bala means you have to do both? So first of all, 1 second. So what is this Machlokas? Desanya. Bala Yoda Noshin. Let's say Nebuch, 10 people had Bia with this girl. Yadayin he Basula, but she's still a Basula. How is it possible that she's still a Basula? It means all these men had Bia with her Shalo Kedarka. So Kul and Beskila. The din is that all of them get skill. Look at Rashi. V'adayin hi basula, shibol kulan aleshul kedarka. So he says, according to the Rabbanan, says they all get skila because they all had bia with a basula. Rabbi Omer ani harisha b'skil b'kul b'chenek. The first one, it's considered to be she's a basula. However, even when an acher, if they had bia with her, shalokadarka, the next one's, the punishment is only chenek. So we see Rebbe holds, an acher can make her a bu'ula, as the other 9 guys no longer get skila. So certainly when it comes to the husband himself, so Amrav Nachmar Yitzchak Mishkach Gan Shekitcha B'Shtar Hoyel V'Garmer Moitzi Garmer Machnes. So you're right. Ki Kachi Shishu Ubala, you wouldn't be able to establish that would be a situation for a Nair Marasa, even if the Bia was Shulkadarka. But another way of Nair Marasa, the case of Nair Marasa could be that you're Rikasha with a star. Just like you can complete an act by giving her a get, you can also complete an act completely by giving her a star. You don't need anything else. And therefore she's a psul, and that's the case of Nair Marasa. Okay. In the Havamina. Rabbi Yochanan, Hai Ubala Hechi Avalei. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, if in fact he says that the pasuk Kikachish Uvala, you can't learn out Bia, so what does he do with that pasuk then? You can only acquire a woman with Bia, but not a Jewish slave. Maybe you can learn out a Kavachaimer. Ma Yavama she'ein niknas bekesef. We know Yavama, whose husband died and they were childless. She could not be Mekadosh with money, Niknas Babia. The only way you can be Kadosh with Bia, so Zu. So this Amavriya, she Niknas Bekesef, as we've established, Kesef Miknaso, you can be Kaina, you can acquire a Jewish slave with money. Yedudinchinas Babia. So therefore, we have a Kavachaymer L'chayra. You would think that and Amavriya should be Nikna Babia, and therefore you need the Pasuk Ubola. Maybe the only reason why, when it comes to a Yavama, that Bia works is because she's already very intimately connected to this brother. So maybe that's why Bia works, but not by Amavriya. Could I think there's no ishus, okay, but that's how he says it. Says the pasuk says if you take another woman, so akisha kasav acheres. When you compare her to the next one. Ma'acheres mekanya babia, af amohavriya mekanya babia, kamash malon. So based on this pasuk, you would think that again you would be able to be kaina and amavriya with bia. Says Rashi, im kain delash mi'inan el kedushi bia lichtov uvoil ma'avola zuv lo amavriya. Okay. Rabbi haisvar minole. So how does Rabbi understand this svara? Rabbi again, who says he learns a uvala to tell you that a woman can be mekadosh with isha. How does he know that you can not be you can't be kain and amavriya with bia? My uvala shma minatarti. So there's the second answer. We learn out that you cannot be mekadosh and amavriya with bia from the same pasuk. Urav Yamar bar Hina asfirli ki kachishisha voila. It says you marry a woman and you then will eventually have bia with her, which is understood that kedushin amasur and labia havi kedushin. The only time it's a kedushin is if it's shaykh to end up having bia with this woman. However, kedushin shen masur labia will have a kedushin. If there's a kedushin shen masur labia that you marry someone, but for whatever reason halachically you're not able to have bia with them, that's not considered to be a kedushin. So Malachim Amar, l'chayra, you should be able to learn out from the same pasuk. So Im Kain Nichtav Kra O Ba'ala, My Uvala Shmamina Kulu. So he learns out all of these three things. So let's look at question 2. Ki kach ishu ba'ala elu tlos halachis kedushin yolaf Rabbi Mahaikra. What does he learn out? So again, first of all, he can be mekadosh and isha with bia. He cannot be kaina an amavriya, a Jewish slave would be and also kedushin needs to be kedushin masurin labia. Okay, let's get to the 2 dots. Rabbi, hi bu'ulas bal my avidle. So on the other hand, so according to the Rabbi Yochanan, he learned this whole the din of kedushi bia from bu'ulas bal. So what does Rabbi do with that pasuk? Rabbi Habulas Bal Mayavle. Hai Miboile Bal Oisa Oisa Bu'ula Shlokadarka. Only the husband has the ability to make his wife into a Bu'ula if he has Bia even Shlokadarka. Obviously, Bia Kadarka, she is physically a Bu'ula. She's no longer a virgin. But even if he has Bia with her Shlokadarka, in which her physical Basulim are intact, nonetheless she has the halakhic status of a Bu'ula only by him. Bu'ulas Baal. But no one else, if someone else would have bia with her in that way, she still has the halachic status of basula, which means that as a din of an marasa, there would be a punishment of skila. Ve'ein acher oisa oisa ba'ula shalokadarka. Umim islay l'Rebbe haisvara. Does Rebbe hold that that's true? To make a distinction between the husband and all other people, that if any other man has been with her shlokadarka, she's still a basula. She's still a basula. I've asanya bola yodanashim yadain hi basula, which again we established means that they all had been with her shlokadarka. It says beferish, so kulam b'skila. So the Tanakhama says they all get skila because seemingly that's what he was saying before, that all of them have bia shlokadarka. That's not considered. She's still a basula. Rabbi Omer Ani Arishon B'skil V'Kol B'Chenek. So we see Rabbi holds an acher can make her a ba'ula, as the other 9 guys no longer get skila. So it's a kasha. So as we continue to Yudam and Aleph, so how can you mean bu'ulas Baal that only the husband makes her into ba'ula? We see beferish the other men too. So in Yudam and Aleph, Omer Reb Zera, Maida Rabbi. Rabbi agrees in kanas to kul mishalmi. What does that mean? Says Rashi, Afagavdol in katala. You're right. She's not considered to be a basula regarding katala. They're not going to get the punishment of skila. They'll get the punishment of chenek because even an acher will consider her as a bu'ula. Once they had bia with her shul kadarka, that in itself also makes her considered like a bu'ula. However, Rebbe will hold le'inin kanas kishe'enu arusa moided kul mishalmi. They all pay. So that's the difference. So Maishna Mikatala, why when it comes to death do we say that they're not going to get the punishment of skila, but she's considered to be a bu'ula? Shani Hasam Diamar Kra Umesa Isha Sheshachav Imo Lavado. The pasuk says only this guy will get killed. Only this guy will get the severe punishment. Mashma, everyone else gets chenek. However, regarding all other matters, we say that it's like you had tashmish with a basula, and therefore, for that reason, you all have to pay the knas punishment. Rabbanon, but what do they do with that? That they both get killed. What does that mean? It says Rashi, shneim shavim b'nei oinchin, that they're both punishable by death because they're both old. If you have a gadol who's bal katana, so then you would not, the punishment wouldn't take place. No, it's even levadai. Even though only one person is a gadol on a katana, you still get punished. You have Yochanan hay svar minale, im kein nechnever kra bu'ulas ish, my bu'ulas bal shema mina tarti. So from this we can derive two things. Ad kan.